stay with that story. I'm joined now by Senior Policing and Global Security Specialist Eldred Klerk to talk to us about what's happening on the ground there in the Western Cape. Eldred, very good morning to you. I mean, community issues there seem to be around land, but also just listening to that report by my colleague Monique Motlok speaking to one of the residents who claims that the city of Cape Town does not think about the needs of the people. What's at issue there from your analysis, from what you are picking up?
Thank you, Dan. And the resident is right. What we have is a schism, a gap between local government and the city and municipalities and the people who it has to serve. We have this idea that public officials have to govern local people rather than serve local people. So they don't have a conversation around the spend of the city budgets. They don't have a conversation about what is priority, especially at this time during the COVID-19 pandemic. And they're very unresponsive in terms of, as the reporter has said, and as people are saying, it was over a year ago that they had conversations about identifying land where people could probably put up, structures. And it's taken this long for the city to respond. And unfortunately, we have a legacy of people having to feel that they have to take to the street before they are listened to.
Now, this kind of protest, according to the city of Cape Town, is forcing them to redirect the resources of fighting crime and focus on this violence that we've seen in the past week. On the one hand, which one could say the community also wants to see crime prevention, but the issue of land and evictions at this time as well, it doesn't seem to be resolved properly. In your view, what should be happening here?
Well, firstly, we should decide that all evictions at this time is irregular and should not take place, even if there is a court order for that.
Shouldn't land invasions as well not go ahead under this time?
Indeed. So those people who are calling for land invasion at this time should be put on notice that what they're doing is not acceptable and it won't be supported, and that they're likely to face consequences. Unfortunately, this doesn't call for violence between the state and its citizens. So where are your councillors, where's your mayor, who should be going into those areas, not just now, but it should be a regular occurrence, and having candid conversations about what the city can do and what they can't do and what people can be doing for themselves.
And people, I mean, one of the residents, Luyanda Dliso, that my colleague Monique Motlok spoke to in a report a short while ago, pointed out that it's not they don't want to pay rent intentionally. Those who are being evicted, for example, they can't because of COVID-19. So the landlords as well don't seem to be understanding and appreciating the circumstances those communities are faced with currently.
Absolutely. This COVID-19 pandemic has really reared the ugly side of the plight of poor people in South Africa and the world, that is, and those who are most at risk and most vulnerable. They are likely to lose their homes. They are likely to be evicted, even if not by the city, then by landlords, and replaced by other more needy people who can afford to pay the 1,000, 1,500 rand a month or whatever it is for a room or a space in a house.
Now, you mentioned earlier, you asked in answering one of my questions, where are the councillors? So leadership on the ground, both on the government side and both on the community side, needs really to step up in this situation to try and calm down the tensions that seem to be building up every week in and around Cape Town.
Absolutely. And in stepping up, you can't do that with conditionality. You can't say to people, well, unless you stop doing this, unless you stop calling me names, unless you stop shouting in my face, unless you stop being rude, I won't come and talk to you. No, you have to talk to you. You have to stand there and face people squarely. And if they're shouting in your face, there's a reason for that. Eventually, they'll stop shouting when they feel that you've stopped listening, that you've started to listen and that you've started to understand. And then together, you can start looking for solutions that are authentic, sustainable, and actually can be put to task. This is a great challenge to the city's housing policy, where they have not opted for a mixed housing development policy. They're looking for land and parcels of things that are not in the backyard of the very rich Cape Town is a prohibitively expensive city to live in, and land in particular is actually earmarked for those who can afford it.
So this should be taken as an opportunity. I mean, COVID-19 should be taken as an opportunity because, as you point out, Eldred, it has rattled, exposed, and magnified the inequality in our social and socio-economic structures. So maybe locally they should grab this and say, how do we change it going forward?
Indeed, the president has called for a post-war effort. And what that means is that we now need to start doing the extraordinary. We need to start skewing resources to those who are most needy.
We lost Eldred de Klerk there as he was answering my final question to him about maybe this is an opportunity for the city of Cape Town to use, to make things be different in terms of housing for the poor communities in and around the city of Cape Town. Okay, apologies for